Hi, I'm Teresa McGallagher, and joining me today is my co-founder of the Miracles Tribe, Carly Judd Hardy, and we are introducing a new series featuring people whose lives have been positively transformed by the work of A Course in Miracles. Today, our guest is Christina Courtney. We're so delighted to have you, Christina. And she is an alignment coach specializing in helping people to release whatever resistance is holding them back from fully identifying with their true self, their God self. As a longtime student of A Course in Miracles, Christina knows firsthand how disorienting, scary, and uncomfortable it can be to unlearn everything that you have been conditioned to believe. But she jokes that once she gave up doing things the world's way, God hired her, and she's been working for him ever since. And she says it was the best choice ever. So, Carly, would you like to say a few words before we hear from Christina and her story?
Yes, thank you, Teresa. And thank you for introducing this wonderful series of people whose lives have been profoundly changed by studying the Course. And Christina, what a delight it is for us to have you with us. Thank you so much. Teresa and I had the great honor to get to know Christina in a group we participated in for about a year. We were all excited about studying and also sharing our stories. And because I was the work in progress in the group, I was new to A Course in Miracles. I reached out to Christina for coaching and just found this beautiful, beautiful heart and someone who had wonderful wisdom. So, without further ado, we're excited, Christina, to interview you and have you as the first one leading out on this series.
Thank you so much, Carly and Teresa. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here with you all and to share a little bit about my journey and my story and what kind of evolved and happened to get me to where I am today. And so I'm a student of Course in Miracles, like they said, and I've also practiced law of attraction and manifestation and a myriad of other spiritual modalities, if you will. I've dabbled in a lot of them, and it's one of my great passions because I've always been really curious about how things are really working and really like obsessed with this idea of healing and this idea that I think that our lives are meant to be easy, that we're meant to have fun, we're meant to be in joy, we're meant to be in flow, we're meant to feel supported. But unfortunately, a vast majority of my life, I did not feel that way. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about learning this and then helping others to really gain this knowledge as well. So rewinding quite a bit back to my childhood, I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional home with a lot of drama and trauma. And by the time that I was 17 years old, I wound up actually taking my parents to court and getting emancipated. And shortly after that happened, I wound up with a life-threatening illness and I was hospitalized. And by that time in my life, I was already going through so much. I actually was just like, I can't even go through with the treatment. It was just too much at that time. And I had someone come to me that was like, you know what, Christina, like, what about everyone else? Like, if you don't go through this treatment, basically I would have had 6 weeks to live. And I was faced with this, and there was this awakening that happened when this person said, you know, what about everybody else? And it kind of helped me to recognize that we're kind of all in this together and that my life is not just for me. Like, how is me shining my light part of my purpose and a means to support and help others too, not to fix it for them or be codependent, even though I was at the time. But really just to shine our light and be of service. And so this conversation actually led me to go through treatment. And it was a long process and it was really painful and difficult, but through connection and community, I was able to overcome it and go into remission. But one thing that really frustrated me is that we never really got to the root of what was going on. And none of the doctors could tell me why this had happened and how to prevent it from happening in the future. And so I kind of became obsessed with this idea of like, what causes illnesses? What causes these disruptions in our life where we're not experiencing this bliss and this joy that intuitively on some level I knew that we were meant to have. And I was also at the time, very conditioned into the world's way of being, into this idea that, success and happiness means that we go to college, we get a degree, and then we have a career that makes a lot of money, and we start a family, and we're in a relationship, and all these things that they said, like, there's all these different things that we're supposed to check all these boxes and do all these things, and then you'll be happy. And I had checked a lot of those boxes, but I still wasn't fully happy. And by the time I was in my mid-20s, this illness actually came back. And this time I really started looking into my spiritual practices even more. And it's about this time that I found A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles for me is really just a way that we can reprogram our thoughts. And I came to understand that, through A Course in Miracles and a lot of other teachings, a lot of attraction, that whatever we're thinking is what we're creating. So we are actively creating our life based on our thoughts. And unfortunately, I had been conditioned with some not so helpful thoughts that I wasn't good enough, that I needed to do more, I needed all these different things. And that my worth was outside of me, that it was based on how much I could accomplish. And so I had this workaholic mentality. I was in corporate America. I was doing, trying to prove my worth by how much I could accomplish in the world. And through studying A Course in Miracles, I came to know that I was pretty backwards in my thinking. And through doing the practices, I was able to really start to release those old ideas and come back to the truth of who I really am, and anchor in that truth, own that truth, and start to embody it. And I really learned that we have this perfect inner guide, that there is this intuitive connection inside of us that we all have, that we can turn to and we can rely on, that has all the answers. And so that time, going through the treatment process, I actually wound up going through intuitive guidance, a much less invasive form of treatment that actually the doctors were not fully in support of at the time. But again, I was listening internally. And I was able to have a full recovery without a lot of the pain and the drama from the very first time. And part of that is because, of course, I was listening intuitively, but I also was coming to the place where I was healing it at its root. Because the condition that I had was actually a bone marrow condition where my bone marrow basically was just shutting down from the inside. I wasn't producing enough blood to survive. And as physical bodies, we need blood in order to sustain ourselves. And what I recognized is there was a correlation between the condition I had and the life that I was living, is that I was shutting down my spiritual self. I was shutting down who I am at my core, and I was living the life that people told me that I was supposed to live. And what happened is I peeled away that conditioning, and I wound up coming back to myself and who I am, what really makes me happy, what I'm feeling called to do in every moment. I got such simple guidance as to different ways that I could modify my life, reprioritize, shift things so that I could really embody the truth of who I am and enjoy who I am, express who I am. And then I no longer needed this illness to do that for me, to show me the ways that I was really like out of balance with who I am, and almost like betraying myself on a cellular level inside of my bones. So I had this miraculous experience where I was able to really focus on my thoughts and recognize what I was thinking and how that was resulting in what I was seeing externally. And so I went on this journey. I was learning a lot of different spiritual things, ACIM being one of the main ones. And I actually got an ACIM coach. I started working with somebody regularly on a weekly basis who was able to help me anchor in these beliefs and these thoughts, because my old patterns were so powerful. They kept like running the show over and over. But once I got that accountability, which I think is so important, what I love about the program that you ladies are doing, is that you're building in that weekly accountability in group format, but then also the day-to-day of the doing the lessons. Because for me, that's what I found as the most transformative thing, is when we have that regular connection and regular practice, if you will, of coming back to our truth. And it's all built into the Course in Miracles. You basically just have to read the book and it kind of like it does it, as long as we follow the instructions. So through that experience of working with a coach and having that opportunity of regularly practicing coming back to the truth, it was like the old me was fading away and the new me was just like blossoming and emerging. And I was really owning my true essence as, you know, the God self, if you will, this idea that this energy of source is within all of us. Course in Miracles refers to it as like, we're all the light of the world. And I was able to start shining my light more and embodying that more. And the more and more I did that, and the more I shifted my thoughts and was paying attention to what I was thinking and how they were creating my reality, and practicing different tools. I know there's some people in this group that, you know, enjoy Law of Attraction or Abraham. And to me, it depends on what definition you use for manifestation, but I think that they're the same thing. I think that the idea, the premise behind them are very similar, in that we're creating our reality, but we're meant to be joyful and peaceful. That's our true essence. And so when we reconnect to our true essence, then we get to experience that in our life. And so I wound up going through this experience, and this is just one of many stories I could tell of how my life was healed and transformed. And my physical body, I've been in remission for, gosh, probably almost 10 years now, quite some time, maybe a little less than that. I'll have to look at the calendar, but a while. And I feel great. And it doesn't mean that things don't pop up in our lives that trigger us. I definitely still have those days where I fall out of peace and love and I forget. But I now have practices that I can go back to that really re-anchor me in the truth of who I am. And because I've been practicing it for so long, I also have just this, it's built in as a knowing as well, that I can always come back to and rely on. And that's the effect of doing this work continuously. So I now have, after I, went into Course in Miracles, I learned about energy healing and all kinds of different modalities like numerology, astrology, you name it. I tried them all out. And I now work with a process that if you go on my website, you can actually get the information, but I do an alignment formula, which actually I've broken down how we can help align with the truth of who we are. So basically we are, whatever we're experiencing externally as a result of these internal thoughts. And a lot of these thoughts are running on autopilot. Like we don't even know that we're thinking them over and over. It's become so much of our subconscious mind. And so when we keep having certain situations show up in our life over and over, we want to look at what are those thoughts that are creating that. And so throughout my life, I've identified, a lot of the different thoughts, like becoming a workaholic. I had this idea that my worth was in my work. If I wasn't doing work, what was my value? And so really looking at those things and releasing them. And so I have a process, if you're interested in, you can find it on my website, where I go through this alignment formula, which is basically how we identify what those different thoughts are and release those different thoughts and then build up the truth. And that's what A Course in Miracles is, and what you'll be doing in Teresa and Carly's program, where you're regularly going through and learning about the truth, learning who you really are through the words of A Course in Miracles. So I'm so excited for you guys to experience that. Yeah. Is there any other parts of my story that you wanted me to share? I know you wanted to kind of keep it short to, how I came about the course and then what that transformation looked like for me. But is there any other aspects you'd like me to cover?
So Christina, how exactly did the course come into your life? How did you encounter it?
Yeah. This is so interesting. So one of the stories of A Course and how it actually started is the originators who actually scribed it basically came together and said, there must be a better way. And I think that that's how it came into my life too, is I was at this point of frustration in my life. And I was just like, there must be a better way. And I was in prayer, talking to the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And I was just like, what's the better way? How, this is not how it's supposed to be. And as a result of that, it's like the Holy Spirit or the universe, however you want to describe it, works through different people in different situations. And it just so happened that a friend of mine was like, hey, I'm reading Course in Miracles, like it's really helping me. Let's, would you be interested in it too? And I picked it up just out of a recommendation, kind of dabbled a little bit in the beginning, was a little confused, didn't quite understand it. And then the more I practiced it, it just kept coming in different ways. And then I went to a coach for something else. And then it just so happened that she wound up being a Course in Miracles coach too, and just kind of started slipping it in. And I was like, huh, interesting. So it came at me from multiple different angles once I made that decision that I was ready to do things differently. And I was ready to really live in the truth. Yeah.
Thank you, Christina. And we also think it's helpful that I've often said that it's dense territory in A Course in Miracles, and that it really does help if you have a guide, if you have guides to help you go through who studied. So I know that your one coach has been a guide. Have you found other guides? And what's your recommendation to people that do you find a guide who can help you on a clear path through?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that once we make that decision that we want the support always shows up. And so I think if you have a desire, anybody who's watching this has a desire to really go down this path and really heal and embody more of the truth of who you are, just setting that intention and being ready to receive it and willing to receive it, because it will come into your life. And then just paying attention to the little signs. So whether that's, signing up for your guys' program, or maybe you resonated with what I talked about and you want to reach out to me, or maybe it's, you're on YouTube one day and you find somebody else who you really resonate with. So really just following that inspired action. I find that when we just surrender it and we ask for the support and we don't make any decisions against ourselves, it just can come right in. So I have had so many guides. I've had friends show up as guides. I have a series of different coaches that I've worked with. Lisa's been fantastic. I love Marianne Williamson. There's so many different coaches out there. And what I find is as we grow and evolve and develop, sometimes we'll be drawn to different things at different times based on whatever is alive for us. And so, if you're really going through relationship stuff, there may be a particular relationship ACIM coach that you are just totally resonating with, or if you're dealing with addiction, or, depending on what it is it's alive for you in your life, you're going to be drawn to different people. And I think that it's awesome if we just follow that inspired guidance and go with whatever resonates with us at that moment.
That is so true, Christina. Everything isn't meant for everybody. And I know the course says that it's only one of the many universal curriculums that are available to us. But for all three of us, it resonated with us. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. You were so inspiring and articulate, and I'm so glad that you're healthy and you were able to overcome your illness and find your way. And would you please tell our listeners how they can find you, where you are on the internet, and how to get to your website?
Sure. Yeah. So my website is ChristinaBCourtney.com. And I guess I should have mentioned that really what came out of this is that I was, working in careers where I was fitting other people's molds of what they needed or wanted. And really through this illness, it actually gave me an opportunity to shift into working for myself and doing what's my true purpose and calling. And so that's what I'm doing right now, is that through A Course in Miracles and these different obstacles that I've encountered, they really just redirected me back onto my path. And so my path right now is to help other people to get back on their path and to be whoever they're meant to be, and to release whatever resistance is in the way, blocking that, whether it's thoughts, beliefs, experiences. So I help people heal through that. And my website is Christina B as in boy, Courtney.com. So ChristinaBCourtney.com, and you can find out more information or reach out to me. And I would love to support you if you resonate.
Beautiful, Christina. We just can't thank you enough. And in that group, I was the work in progress. Other people had studied the course for a long time, and I was the newbie. And so I just really reached out to Christina and got to connect with her wisdom, and then reached out to Teresa. And just by doing the daily lessons, I've seen, and I tried everything else. I was the one who tried everything else before I got there. So such a pleasure to be with all of you today. And yes, what a great way to kick off our series. Thanks so much. And we'll see you later.